Welcome to AUM. We are live, and I'm your host, Kalli Fedusenko of Kalli Collective, a digital marketing agency designed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience through data-driven custom content and advertising. Are you passionate about a cause or deeply invested with a nonprofit organization, but you're not quite sure how or if you should include your charitable activities in your marketing? Today, we're talking with wealth manager, radio show host, author, and founder of Adams Wealth Partners, David Adams, about not only incorporating charitable causes into your marketing, but also inviting your clients to get involved too. So make sure to ask your questions in the comments as we go along, and we'll see them on our end and answer them as they come in. Welcome, David. I am so happy to have you with us today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump right into some of my questions here.
Okay.
So I've worked with a lot of advisors, and I'd say 100% of them give back in some way, but not many of them consistently talk about their charitable work, and even less tie it to a personal experience or conviction. I've really seen a difference in the way that you talk about the ways you are involved. You have like this willingness to share your personal experience and conviction, which I believe really brings in a relational element that is often missing. So does opening up about your personal life come easily to you, or is that something that you've kind of had to push yourself to do?
Yeah, thanks for those comments. I'd say it's definitely evolved. It's not natural. It's become more natural in the last 5 years, and that's probably for a couple of reasons. One is the first, I'd say, 10 or 15 years of my career doing this. When I would join a board or get involved with a nonprofit, a lot of the times it was something I didn't know a lot about, or not that I wasn't passionate about it, but I didn't really have a why behind it. It was kind of more of a resume builder, or I wanted to get involved, and I was just, but I wasn't that active in the group or the
Yeah.
board because I was just kind of new, and also just younger and less life
Right.
experience. And so, as over the last few years, as I identified causes I was really passionate about and had a personal connection to, it became a lot easier and more natural to share with clients, and to get rid of that insecurity that, oh my gosh, they might think that I'm asking them for money, or that this is not appropriate to mix personal and
Right.
business. I got rid of a lot of those insecurities as the why became, louder in
Yeah.
my mind and heart.
Yeah. And I think that really shows in what you've been producing too. I've
Yeah.
also noticed that you invite people to join in what you're doing. So, for example, I know this weekend you did the walk to end Alzheimer's, and you invited all of your clients to join, but you also gave them your why, just like you're talking about,
Right.
for doing it, and invited them to join you rather than just joining the cause. So, what I normally see is, hey, we're doing this for this organization who does great stuff. Come join us. But the way I see you saying it is, this thing happened to my family. No one else should go through it. Here's an organization that does something to stop it. Come join me. And that is just so much more powerful of a message. In
Right.
fact, that's one of the things or reasons that it stood out to me is my grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's when I was a child.
Mm.
And it would be like one thing to see that, hey, you're doing this walk, but on top of that, you also have this personal connection. So
Right.
even though I have the personal connection too, it was like this shared connection that is
Right.
moving.
Yeah, and sorry about your loss. I know it's been a while, but still, it's a very cruel disease. And so you're right. Something like Alzheimer's, I didn't know anything about it until my mom was diagnosed 4 years ago and passed earlier this year. And as I went through that, it's like anything in life. I learned a lot. Unfortunately, I had to reach out to friends and even clients that had shared they had gone through it, and ask questions and just connect with them and learn. And through doing that, a lot of clients became aware of the journey. And so
Yeah.
the hardest thing is I first shared it on social media, just,
Hmm.
saying, hey, we're going through this. I'm getting involved with this walk. If you've gone through this with anybody else or have questions, if I can help you, let me know. If you may be able to help me, let's have lunch, that sort of thing. So once the
Right.
awareness got out, people just knew, clients knew that I was going through that, and they'd come to meetings and say, how's your mom? How's that going? So because I let them in early, when I would do something like the walk to end Alzheimer's, it didn't feel weird putting that out there because
Yeah.
so many people, had asked about it, known about it. And gosh, just the feeling of just knowing we have community and people asking and anything in life, that feels really good. And then seeing clients give back and donate to the page and all that was really special as well. So
Yeah.
that's the key. Sharing it though and letting them know. Had I just said, "Hey, I just joined the board of this Alzheimer's group. It's a great cause. I'm trying to help them raise money." You get some response, but that doesn't
Mhm.
hit the same as
Mhm.
kind of sharing it the way I did. And that's why I think I've been able to make more of an impact. But I certainly didn't do this for 15 years.
Sure.
This is new.
Yeah.
And it feels
What
really
made you decide to share that side?
um just because it was honestly that particular situation with my mom and my dad and my sister trying to figure out and navigate um, long-term care facilities and just
Mm.
data and doctors and research. It was so hard and it was consuming probably
Yeah.
50% of my day.
Yeah.
Um, that I just got used to, people would ask, "How are you?" You could only say, "I'm fine," for so often. And I'd say,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm doing okay, but we're going through this." And I just, as I did it, the fear went away because the reception from clients and people was so kind and nice and loving and helpful that it became kind of second nature. And I've
Yeah.
been able to give a lot back now. Now people knows, "Oh, you lost your mom. We're going through this. How did you find what doctor did
Right.
you go to?"
Right. Um, yeah, and I think, another piece of it that's important is that you mentioned it was taking up so much of your time. And I think advisors sometimes they fear talking about something over and over because it'll be annoying. But studies show that you have to say something 7 times before someone hears it. Uh, so I think maybe you have that consistency where you're bringing it up, but I think that consistency also is coming from that personal connection and time spent. So maybe it's a little bit easier to talk about it because, hey, that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, if I didn't put the personal connection, or if anybody listening is just again saying, "Hey, I've joined this nonprofit. I'm trying to help them raise money," that it's not going to hit the same. And if you do that 7 times or 10 times, you
Yeah.
absolutely could annoy some people. Although most people, they're just going to, if that's the case, they're going to hit delete or something, and they're not. I mean, at least you're raising money for a good cause, so they're not going to
Right.
think you're a bad person or be annoyed in a bad way. But you're just not going to get the impact, and so it could come across that way. So I think you know if you do join a nonprofit or some type of charity that you have a why behind, don't waste the opportunity to share that with people.
Yeah.
um, and it doesn't have to be as in-depth as like my situation with Alzheimer's, because I'm in another group as well that I didn't have a personal connection, but I can explain that. But
Yeah.
if it is that as deep as that, like, let people know, like, I went through this with my friend or my family, and this is the challenge with it, and this is what I learned, and I need help, or I needed help at the time, so now I want to make sure other people get that help. That's my
Right.
why. um, People aren't going to get annoyed with that. They're just
Yeah.
not. You'd have
Yeah.
to really try to annoy people. I mean, you absolutely could, but it would take a lot.
Right. Um, let's see. I've also seen, again, I know most advisors are involved in some sort of charitable cause. I've
Right.
seen that often. But I think a lot of times they're not sure how to invite clients to join them. And so I know beyond the walk that you're also involved with Ancora, which
Mhm.
is nonprofit against human trafficking. How have you been able to invite your clients to join you in that?
Yeah, so that's an example of one. Before this stuff happened with my mom and Alzheimer's, I was just really looking for a nonprofit that I could really join, but also really add value to. With my almost 20 years experience, I was like, I really want to, like, not just do this for a resume builder. I want to really
Yeah.
add value, and was praying about it and asking
Yeah.
people about it. And I won't bore you with how it came about, but I got introduced to the CEO at the time,
Yeah.
had coffee with her, and just left in tears. I just couldn't believe the stats. I had no idea that all that went on
Oh,
in
yeah.
Green Hills Mall in Tennessee, like, for example.
Yeah.
So a passion was awoken inside of me about that,
Right.
and that led to getting involved. But really, to get in, like I said, I wanted to make an impact. So
Yeah.
I knew I was going to have to, once I took about 6 months to just sit and observe and learn more about it, and then figure out my position in the board. And once I became chair of the
Mm.
capital campaign committee, I was in charge. I helped do certain events. So I would have like an event at the Bluebird Cafe that I
Okay.
would pay for as part of my charitable donation. I'd put it all
Right.
together and just invite clients. Hey, this is not a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I want you to come and just hear about this cause and get some
Mm,
awareness. A, you might want to get involved. B, maybe you want to give. And if so, that's great, but it's not
yeah.
required. Or C, maybe you can just learn more about this, and who knows who you know, or maybe you'll be able to spread the word or help in the future. So I started doing that. I didn't feel like that was a lot of pressure. So I had 40 or 50 people go to Bluebird. That went well. Then the nonprofit, and most nonprofits do this, they put on a once a year big fundraiser.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
would invite all my clients to that, but that was what I would do there. That was a little trickier because I didn't have the personal story. I made a video. I don't know if
mhm,
you remember it back then, but I made a
mm,
video where I sent it out, just me talking about some of the
mhm.
stats and how I got involved. And it was,
Yeah.
hey, please come and learn more about this.
Mm.
And I had clients attend that. And like in 2 weeks, I'm doing a little event at my house with the CEO, and maybe I'm just going to invite 15 people and
Yeah.
just to spread awareness. And I'm doing like a Q&A session with the CEO,
Mm.
just that sort of thing. So just kind of learning ways to, it doesn't have to always be about asking for money. And I think that's what we
Right.
advisors fear, because we already asked for money in business.
Right,
And it's
right.
like, now we want you to give us money for this. And clients, they all have money. Places are probably already given money to. So
Yeah,
that's the delicate dance. It's like, we
yeah.
don't want to be annoying, but we want to show our clients that we're real people and we do have hearts. We're not just greedy
Right.
financial planners watching the stock market every day. And so there is a way to do that.
Yeah. Have you found that your clients like getting involved monetarily or with their time? Like, is there a difference between the two?
I mean, it's like anything else. It's the law of, of averages. If you have
Mhm.
300 clients, and I haven't done this analysis, I'm just kind of going by gut.
Sure.
But if I have 300 clients, there's maybe 50 that, no, maybe 30 or 40 that gave some money, maybe
Mhm.
50. Some might have given a couple hundred. One guy just randomly donated $10,000 the other day.
Wow.
Never new client, never. But I called him because it was such a big gift, and
Yeah.
thanked him. And he's like, "Yeah, my grandmother passed from this. It's a terrible disease. I've never known how to get
Mm.
involved."
Yeah.
So there's people that do that, and then there's been about 10 people of clients, and there's been
Mhm.
more friends, but like 10 clients that have been like, hey, I gave a little bit of money, but I would love to learn to get involved because
Mhm.
XYZ happened. And then probably 3 or 4 of them, actually clients, got involved on a committee, not on the board, but a committee
Mm.
where they're
Okay,
helping
yeah.
do volunteer work, or like, work with the survivors to do some stuff with Thistle Farms, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. Okay, speaking of being on the board, this is more of a personal question. How did you prevent burnout? Because I faced that with when I was on a board, and it was just too much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'd say a lot of advisors, just the way we're wired. I mean, I'm trained to say yes to almost everything because
Mm.
everything's an opportunity. And
Yeah,
every
right.
board, you don't know who you're going to meet, and maybe your next big client. So I've had to do a lot of just self work over the years and literally brought this back up the other day because I got off the rails again about the power of saying no and trying to
Right.
more space. I did so. When I did the Ancora, I said that was the only one I was going to do, and I was going to
Mm.
focus on that for 2 years, say no to everything else, so I could make an impact. Because I've been on
Yeah,
4 boards before, and I just went there and sat there and raised my hand once, and it didn't feel good.
right.
I faced that challenge when the walked in Alzheimer's asked me to join because I told them, I was like, here's my concern.
Mhm.
I said, however, it literally is, I'm involved in this so much, I can't say no. So I
Yeah.
didn't join the board there. I just said, I'm going to be one of the main promoters of the Walked In
Mm.
Alzheimer's, which is their main fundraiser. And so I'll
Yeah.
do a tent. I'll have like my dog Jolene. I had these
Yeah.
ideas, like sponsor a pet zone, and we'll do all these things. And I'll get my dad, and I'm happy to come on stage and tell my story.
Mm.
So I was just upfront and honest with them of what I could do. And then I
Right.
took full advantage of, here's what I'm good at. I can ask clients. I can probably have them help raise money. I can tell my story. I feel comfortable talking in front of a crowd, and
Mm.
I'm willing to have a team booth. And they appreciated that. And they said,
Yeah.
absolutely. I said, but
Yeah.
what I don't think I can do is make all the monthly, because I mean, there's monthly and weekly check-in
Mhm.
board meetings. I told them I'm going to fail at most of those, but I'll be on a big one if you need me to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me do my highest point of impact.
Yeah. I think that's actually a great way to attack it is like, hey, this is what I can offer you.
Right,
And then
instead
people
of
are
just saying
interested.
no. And it's okay to
Yeah.
say no too, but I couldn't
Right.
say no to the Alzheimer's part because I wanted to get involved, but I was like, "Oh crap, here I go again." I'm about I
Right.
gotta work with clients and do all this stuff. So that's been pretty smooth, but I have had to say no a couple of times recently. a big charity in town asked me if I could do XYZ and raise money. And I just said, I have so many asked out right now. I've got to focus on my two priorities.
Yeah.
Hard to do. Hard to do.
It is. Apart from, some of the events that you're doing, I guess mostly events because the walk, the Bluebird, are there other ways that you're incorporating the charitable organizations into your business?
Yeah, good question. Let me think about that. So the emails, letting people in the video, I've done some personal videos, just letting them know the couple of events. No, other than the few clients who actually I get to see now, like they're on some of the committees. I don't think so. I'd have to think about that. But the goal is always to expand on that. I think most of my clients know when they see me, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you do stuff with Alzheimer's, or you do stuff with human trafficking." So I think I've gotten awareness enough out that people associate me with those, which is nice versus just David Raymond James, financial planner.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll stay on the board with Ancora? Because I know you said you gave it 2 years. Are you going to stay?
I think so, because we're the capital campaign committee that I'm on. We got like a big $3 million grant last year from the state and the governor. And so now I've been a part in kind of like, we have that money sitting aside. It's taken a couple of years, a year and a half to get all the permits to do the building. So I don't want to leave now when the exciting stuff's about to happen. So I'll definitely continue on for the foreseeable future. And then it'll be one of those things I'll probably roll off at some point, but I'll make myself available and I'll want to stay. I'll be still like, an advocate for it. Come to events and maybe speak from time to time if they want me to.
I'm also, because I've got a few extra minutes here that I can ask these other questions I've got.
Yeah.
I'm super interested what the stats are because you mentioned Green Hills Mall. And I'm like, oh, what is happening there?
Well, just the point of that is just like, I tell people when I first heard about human trafficking, I always thought of like a Liam Neeson movie, like the movie Taken, and it's in foreign countries, or it's in like really sketch areas of the country, but probably in foreign countries and, that sort of thing. And they were like, no, this is Ancora, Tennessee. And this is like this. And this was the lady that was the CEO at the time was like, used to be in the field with a TBI, like arresting perpetrators. She said it's normally middle-aged, white-collar, like middle-aged men, white-collar bankers, different executives around town that she's personally arrested. She goes, the Green Hills Mall, there'll be, victims that have certain tattoos on certain parts of their body, and they pick them up. And she said it happens all the time in Middle Tennessee. And Green Hills Mall was just an example of, I live in Green Hills. She's like, oh, it happens all the time there. And then the percentage, like the number of people and stuff. But I just thought this was like more like a worldwide problem. I didn't know what happened in our backyard. And it's very, very prominent. And then like the amount of money needed to get one survivor from the time that they call in for help to be on their own, and the percentages of relapse where they go back. Another thing that was interesting too is I didn't know that, and I do this in my Q&A sessions at my house. I'm like, what is the difference between, human trafficking versus prostitution versus, and what percentage are children versus adults and that sort of thing. And I learned that it's usually, has substance abuse involved, like where the bad person gets the person hooked on heroin or some sort of drug. They become dependent on it. They become their boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever. They create a dependency. And then they go and the bad stuff begins, and they put them out and they make money and they do all the horrible things that we hear about. So I just didn't know any of that. So now, like you asking that question, now I'm going out and trying to create the dialogue to better answer your question. I would have brought the CEO in, Kalli. She would have answered those questions with the exact stats.
Right.
I'm a connector, and I know enough to just start the conversation. And then you would then go, wow, I had no idea. And then maybe you want to get involved. So that's kind of, that's a perfect example. Thanks for asking that, of how the process works. And all of you advisors can do that in some way with your clients more than likely.
Right. You also mentioned you're doing an event at your house. How are you comfortable bringing people into your house?
Well, never done that. Well, I'll take that back. I did one like a long time ago, like 10 years ago. I had a songwriter at my house, and that felt a little weird, but that was a long time ago, and I haven't wanted to do it since. I don't know, because it's been a long time. I think this is not a David Adams, Raymond James, Adamsville Partners event. this is, and there's only gonna be a few clients. I'm really just trying to find people that I
Sure.
think would be good advocates.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's an easy way to get people to come over and know that it's not a fundraiser, to say, hey,
Mm,
we're going to have wine, cheese, appetizers. The CEO is going to come speak. Just come
yeah.
over for an hour. I'm going to do a Q&A session that the same
Mm,
kind of questions that I wanted to know when I got joined. That's been easy for
yeah.
me to ask people and them to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a little, and that's okay if you're uncomfortable doing that because everybody's got a different
Sure.
situation there. I know optics can be with clients, and advisor might, there's all sorts of things that go into that. That I
Mhm.
understand more. And normally you could just do a restaurant or something. And part of it's
Mhm.
cost, just keeping costs down for them.
Sure.
I could have gone and rented a restaurant or something. A lot of people don't want to go to those things at 5 o'clock at night to a restaurant.
Yeah. Especially
So
in Nashville, we got the traffic.
yeah, so it's just like, hey, come by my house and make them feel more like it's more personal. I'm inviting you to my home to hear about
Mhm.
something that's near and dear to my heart. That's
Yeah.
an easier way to get somebody. If it's a financial planning, like a investment seminar, restaurants work great. Probably no reason to do your home.
Yeah. Do you with I'm switching gears a little bit. So with Alzheimer's, do you feel like you'll make that kind of like a segment of your business for people who are going through that? Like, hey, here are things that you should look at, long-term care facilities or, just based off of your experience.
So maybe not. So far, what
Yeah.
it's become is in a meeting, if long-term care comes up or they mention something about it, I many times this has come up. I'm like, well, for example,
Yeah.
I'm glad I had long-term care. I sold it to my parents
Yeah.
15 years ago when I was newer in the business. I was like, I had learned about it. I didn't know if, I didn't know
Mhm.
that we'd end up needing it. But it turned out to be really a blessing. And my mom was in a home for X amount of years, and I walk them through that, and it just attaches a more personal story to it. So
Yeah.
it's come up quite a bit versus me just selling insurance. And that's what I was doing 15 years
Right.
ago. I mean,
Right.
I knew it was good stuff, but I'd never been through it, and so I can only sell
Right.
it the way I was trained to sell it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it comes up that way, and because I know quite a bit, I can give people advice. Or offline, they'll say, "Hey, can we grab coffee? I'd love to hear
Right.
how you did X, Y, Z." But I
Yeah.
haven't made it like a formal part of the process. I just think
Yeah.
people know I'm a resource.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is all great stuff. Anything else that you think would be important for an advisor to think about if they're, considering a charitable organization and bringing that into their practice more?
Yeah, well, just try to think if there's, when I first started thinking like,
Mhm.
what are things I'm passionate about? Like I love dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll go join the Humane Society or go try to do
Yeah.
these things or whatever. And then Alzheimer's part hit about that time. So it became clear what I was supposed to do. To
Mm.
think about things like that you enjoy that you'd want to make a difference in. The other thing I forgot to tell
Mm.
you that I
Yeah.
think is relevant is like with your team, because I was doing all this
Yeah.
stuff for these two organizations that were important to me,
Yeah.
I let them know like, hey, I'm going to put X amount of our revenue into the Adam
Mm.
Partners Donor Advice Fund.
Mhm.
And then if you have something important to you, you can let
Mm.
the team know and we'll go and support it. So like we did the walk, I forgot the formal name. It used to be called the Buddy Walk. It was like the walk. It's for Down syndrome. So
Mm.
the whole
Okay.
team went out. Two members on my team have some, one has a child, one has a
Yeah.
brother that have Down syndrome. So we went out and all had a booth there and just kind of said
Mm.
we all walked together, and then I donated X amount of money from the fund to support them because
Yeah.
they're indirectly coming to the events for us and helping.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm their boss or whatever. I want them to feel connected to know that we're all there for them as well.
I don't know if everyone can hear my dog
Is that
barking.
your dog? I was like, that sounds like Jolene actually, but she's downstairs in the staff meeting. So I think that's your dog.
This is how you know we're actually live.
Yeah. That's people like that. It's real. It
Yeah,
makes you a real person.
exactly.
You don't have to be perfect.
I even left a note on the front door. Hey, Amazon, please don't knock.
Yeah. Film it. Yeah. Live podcast and my dog will go berserk. Thank you.
Yep. um, which now I've lost my train of thought, but
That's okay. I was just mentioning about like letting your staff share if they have any causes that are
yeah,
important to them, finding a way for the team to be able to support each other
right,
and maybe
right.
whatever that looks
Yeah,
like.
something that everyone is
Yeah.
passionate about. I think that's really great. I think all of this is really great. I think finding something that you have a personal connection to is like how you win at this. Um, And also, yes, sorry, condolences. I know that your mother passed away this year.
Yeah,
And I agree, Alzheimer's is like a terrible disease. But I'm glad that you're comfortable sharing it, because I think that's important, and it's helped bring more people in as advocates.
yeah.
And in fact, so David did the walk this weekend, and there is still time to donate. And we have a link that we'll put up at the bottom if anyone watching would like to get more involved.
Thanks
So
for
thank you,
sharing that.
David, for your time and sharing. And to our guests, join us next month to talk about incorporating your clients' life milestones in your marketing with Bento Engine. And thanks to everyone for joining. If you're not already, get savvy at the following link.
Thanks, Kalli.
Thanks, David.